Good morning, friends. Welcome back to the Say What podcast. My name is Hannah, and on this podcast, we like to talk about marriage, family, relationships, overcoming purity culture, sex, all the fun, girly things on this podcast. I'm so excited that you guys are here today. I first wanted to start the episode off by thanking you for all the kind words and encouragement from last week's episode. I was feeling very shy about it. I just didn't want to post about it. I just wanted to put the episode out there and just let it be, and the people who listen to it. But I really did not post much about it because I was just feeling shy. I feel like it was a very vulnerable episode for me to just tell you guys about trying to get pregnant and how it's hard, and I'm very sad about it. So I was just feeling shy. And I just wanted to thank you guys because you all have been so kind and so nice and sent me advice and thoughts and help and solidarity and all of it. So I really appreciate you, and I'm just very grateful for this family we have here, and just thanking you so much for being so kind. So hopefully in a couple months I will be able to report back and have a very exciting update from that to tell you, but we do not have one today. Anyways, I just wanted to start off with that. And I lost my notes because I have to have notes or because I forget everything that happens in my life. You know how I got a haircut last week, and I did the bravest thing in the entire world that really anybody could do, honestly. And that is I called the salon and asked them to fix my hair. The blowout fell out and I started to style it myself. And it was just not blending. It just was not blended on one side. And you can't really see it in the recording. So you don't know what you're missing. But it just was not really blended. And it truly just needed to be fixed. The layers were not blended. It was just bang, second layer, third layer. It was not really blended throughout. The right side looked great, but the left side was just not looking good. So I did the really brave thing and I called, and I could not believe it. I was terrified the whole time. I think I apologized 5 times. I was I'm so sorry to call. And when I actually went and saw the girl who did my hair, she told me, she's I would way rather you call so I can fix it than to walk around and be unhappy with your hair. That is not what I want you to do. So thank you for calling. You did the right thing. It's going to be okay. I'm fine. She was not mad at all. And it was just a quick fix, and I was in and out, and now my hair looks great, and it's how I want it to look. So it's still taking me some time to figure out how to style it because it is a different cut, and the curls are not the same, but it's okay. I am really thankful that she fixed it, and it was really nice. For some reason, panicking. I was what did they mean to me? And of course they weren't mean to me, but I did. I walked in and I was just thank you so much for fixing this. I just would love it if it could just be blended a little bit more. The blowout, you couldn't really see where it was falling, and now that it has fallen, you can just see how it's kind of choppy. So if it could just be blended, it would be great. And after she finished it, I didn't know to be it looks so much better. Thank you. I didn't know how to respond. I was oh, it looks great. Very blended. Thank you so much. Because it did look so much better, but I didn't just want to be yeah, the first job you did was terrible. Because it wasn't terrible. It just needed to be blended more, And I texted my friend who's a hairstylist and was I need your opinion. Am I being dramatic, or does this look bad? Because I didn't want to just be dramatic and go in for no reason. But she was no, you're not being dramatic. If you're not happy with it, you should go get it fixed. And even if you were being dramatic, if you're not happy with it, you should get it fixed. So, and I understand things happen, but anyways, I need to stop messing with my hair now and just let it be. And I just wanted to tell you that I did the brave thing. So I'm very proud of myself. Be proud of me. I'm proud of you if you do that, if you've done that. I, for some reason, just trying to tell somebody that they did not do a good job on something. I was so afraid to offend, and I didn't want to hurt, and I'm so understanding, and I'm not mad about it. So I was just hoping to come across that way than any other way. So my child did not sleep from month 7 to 16, and he started sleeping once we stopped breastfeeding. And it has been a glorious 16 to, how old is he now? 25 months. He's a little over 2. I'm not going to say that for everything, but it is important for what we're talking about. And let me tell you guys, apparently there's a 2-year-old sleep regression. I was not ready for this. It hit me like a ton of bricks. And I tell all my friends in my life, you will sleep again. Just wait. You will sleep again. You'll sleep again. You'll sleep again. And here I am not sleeping again. Tate is just partying for hours in the middle of the night. He's just excited to be here, excited for life, wants to go downstairs, wants to eat, wants to hang out. And I'm buddy, it's 3 a.m. And he's very specific with who he wants to party with. Some nights it's dad, some nights it's mom. And if it's not dad or mom, he will let you know how he feels about it. And he will throw the biggest tantrum he's ever thrown in his life. And, it's okay. He's figuring it out. And I'm very understanding to that because I understand that he has feelings and he's just trying to work through his feelings. And so we stay with him. We figure it out. We don't let him cry it out. Like, we work through it together. And that's why I'm thankful we have a floor bed, because we'll sleep with him in his bed. But it has taken me out. Like, I have forgotten what it's like to not get sleep. So I'm just telling myself this is preparing me for when I have a newborn again one day and I'm not sleeping then. So, like, this is good preparation for that, because let me tell you, he's not sleeping. I had to take a brief intermission to check my phone because I'm trying to get a console table off Facebook Market. And it is like the biggest battle you could ever experience in your life on Facebook Market. Like, I am trying to win the Great War. I'm trying to win the Great War, and I'm making sure that everything is like coming through properly because he put sold. We have not picked it up yet. You guys are getting live responses. I think this means that he sold it to us, and I will rate him once we actually pick it up. But he just marked it as sold. So hopefully that means that it is coming, and we'll see. Thoughts and prayers for me that I get this console table this afternoon. He just marked it as sold, but we just agreed on when we're going to pick it up. So you would think that he would mark it as sold after I do my end of the bargain, but we'll see. Fingers crossed. It's really cute. I'm so tired of having open shelving in my living room. I'm so desperate to have a cabinet where I can actually store things behind and you can't see all the toys everywhere. It is going to make my life significantly better. So Caroline sent me this console table that she found on Facebook Market. So she is the Facebook Market queen and can find me anything. So I'm very grateful that she found it. She found my rug. She found my console table. She's pretty much my interior designer. So thank you, Caroline, for being my interior designer, because I cannot do it myself. I do not have an eye for it, which is shocking because I do have an eye for like cute things, like making things pretty. But when it comes to my house, I like freak out because I have so many different things I like and I don't know how to make them like go together. And I'm worried they're not going to go together. And I'm always trying to make the blend of, if it was my house, every single thing in the house would be pink. It would be pink, it would be red, it would be blue, it would be colorful, like so girly. And I live with boys, and like I'm trying to have a house that's like not just like a girly house, like it's not just a Barbie house. Like I'm trying to make it a home for the family and not just be pink. So it is a hard balance. Anyway, I'm not sleeping. I say all this to the other 2-year-old families out there that if you are also going through a sleep regression, my heart is with you. I'm so sorry. I was unprepared for this. And here we are. And he also used to wake up 7:30, sometimes 8. And now he's up before 7 every day. So we're doing great. We're doing great. We'll figure it out. I think it's just like he's knowing that he's by himself and he doesn't like to be by himself. So he's kind of freaking out about it. But we'll figure it out. It'll be fine. So I came across a news article that was actually about a law that passed last year, but I did not see it until now. And we just have to talk about it today, friends. It is, I'm going to read the headline so I get it correct. New Colorado law prohibits use of sex assault victims' clothing or hairstyle as proof of consent. And this is House Bill 1072. So basically in Colorado, they cannot look at a victim and say, like, what were you wearing? What did you look like? And that is the reason for your assault. The goal of this bill is to stop victim blaming and to protect victims of assault. Because historically, if a woman is assaulted, I don't know the exact like stats about it, but I would probably say 9 times out of 10, like she's not going to report the assault. She's just not going to do it because women are mostly not believed. Women are, once we go through the court system, like they're torn apart, their reputation is torn apart. And even if like in the court of law, the person is found to be like guilty of the abuse, the woman is still somehow like at fault. They'll still blame her. They'll still say all these things that it's her fault and she deserved it. And so the idea of like you being assaulted and going through the legal system is just exhausting. It's so exhausting and it feels like it's not going to help anybody and it's only going to make you worse. So a lot of times people will not report their assaults. And also I totally know that women are not the only ones who assaulted. Men are assaulted too, and it's underreported and not talked about enough. But in this case, I'm just talking about women because I'm a woman and I'm sharing my experience. So I've not been assaulted and not had to go through with this. But even on like a very small scale, like very, very small scale that is not anywhere near abuse, I'm not comparing the two. I'm just like helping people understand the situation. Like when I was hit on and it was a very gross situation, the guy actually said something to me again. So I saw him in Target again and he was the only one at the counter and I had to go to that counter because I needed that help. And so I just like took a deep breath and walked up to him and I was like, and he looked at me and he said, "We're closed." And I was like, "No, you're not." And I just kind of like, I was just short with him. I said, "No, you're not." And he was like, okay, denying my accusations again. I guess because I just denied his accusation about my ring. And I just said, yep, sure am. And just like kept going. And then another guy walked up from behind the counter, and the guy who was hitting on me like made a comment to the other guy to like finish checking me out, which I was grateful for that. So the other guy finished it and not him. But so now it's like twice that he said something to me and he couldn't just like leave it alone. And even that one comment was just like so unnecessary. He didn't have to say it. He could have acted like it never happened, but instead he just said something again. And Thomas has said, like, wanted to say something to him because I now know his name. Like, I looked at his name tag to get his name, and I just don't want to say anything. And the reason I don't want to say anything is because it's going to make it more awkward for me next time I go into Target. Like, if I go into Target and I see him again, like, he's just going to know that I'm the, like, called, and it's just going to make it more uncomfortable, more awkward. And it's just like more work. Like, I didn't want Thomas to say anything because it's more work. Like, if I have to see him again, he's going to say something again about my husband taking up for me or my child being there. And it's just he's going to say something again. And so I am even part of the problem of not reporting things, but it's because I know it's just going to make my life harder, and I don't necessarily want to do that. And so I haven't done anything. I'm still like debating, like maybe I actually should call and report him because it really was uncomfortable, and I just like don't want this employee like doing this to me. So, but I also, my empathy comes in, and I'm like, I don't want somebody to lose their job, but maybe he should lose his job. Like, he's making Target people feel uncomfortable, and like, that's not great. So maybe I should call. I'm processing this with you real time. So welcome. That's how, there's so much, remember, I'm all about the nuance. Everybody is so black and white these days. I'm so not black and white. Like, I'm all about the nuance. So there is a lot of nuance in this conversation. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do. But anyways, like, even just the simplest thing of that, of reporting somebody who is making unwanted comments to me, like, I don't even want to do that because it's going to end up being more work for me and harder for me and more awkward for me. So like the assault victims, like, it's so hard to actually want to report it and have to go through the system, but it's hard. It's just so hard. And so something that women are often just in their assault situations are told, like, you wanted it, like, you dressed up, you went to the bar, you got drunk, like, you were acting like you wanted this. It doesn't matter if you said no. It's because you said yes at some point, so that just means yes forever. It doesn't matter if you changed your mind, or you looked like this, and so that was like trying to taunt him to make him want it. And those things are still happening. And so they made a law against that. And while I am extremely happy that this law exists, I'm so thankful that this state is trying to take up for women in a world that's like still trying to bring women down. I'm so thankful that this law exists and it's set up to stop victim blaming. It angers me that we even have to put a law like this in the first place. I cannot understand how people can still blame women for their own assaults. Like, they will look for any reason to blame a woman. Like, it's always a woman's fault. The man couldn't do this, it's always a woman's fault. When in reality, like, the abuser is the abuser. Nobody made him abuse this person. Like, he is the abuser. He is the one who hurt somebody. Or if it's a woman, like, the person who did the abuse is 1000% at fault. And I truly do not care if these people met at a bar, they were flirting, they were hanging out. She was like, yeah, I'll go back to your place with you. And then when she got there and she was like, actually, I changed my mind, I don't want this, and tries to leave, like, it's still not her fault. Not one thing she did that night was her fault. And what's so interesting to me is that this law in particular says, like, the hairstyle does not mean proof of consent. And I'm, again, so glad it's written in here. Like, all of my criticism, I guess, is not of this law because this is a good law. And I'm thankful Colorado has it. Colorado, I feel like, often has good laws to, like, protect women and victims of assault. But I am just criticizing that we even have to have this in at all because people do not understand that abusers are not good people and we should be blaming the abuser and not the abused. But the fact that they have to have hairstyle in there as reason or as, like, not proof of consent, like, couldn't just say, like, the clothing doesn't matter, the hairstyle. So, like, they're saying the way that you look and, like, dress as yourself is not proof of consent. And I wish we just didn't have to have that. I don't know how we get to a world where we don't have to have, like, people aren't saying what was she wearing. Like, it's just it's part of the bigger picture of, like, fighting that, like, patriarchal view every day. And it's just exhausting. It's exhausting. Another part of this bill hopes was that more people will report. And after everything I went through and said, like, it's so hard, you don't want to go through that, you don't want to put yourself through that, I'm grateful that this law is in place because it will hopefully encourage more victims to report their abuse because they can't now in court say, what was she wearing? It can't come back on her legally. Like, it says that nothing about the victim's look can be used as proof of consent. And they're really hoping that that starts to, encourage more women, because unfortunately, when abuse happens, like, to get it to stop, the person has to be like put away, and that means that you do have to report. But again, everything I listed out is all the reasons why I understand trying to report somebody for what happened is almost impossible. Like, it feels impossible, and it is incredibly brave and incredibly courageous for someone to report. And I do know oftentimes it's easier to report when you have like other people who've done this, and you can all go together, and that just like helps you feel better. But the Colorado is really trying to help, make it easier for people to report their assaults and to not be blamed. And another part of the House Bill 72 was that you could not include, it says, this law also includes provisions severely limiting in court hearings the use of a victim's or witness's sexual history, along with accusations of a prior history or false reporting. It's good that they also added this in there, because victims' history, like their sexual history, has nothing to do with that instance of abuse. It doesn't matter if this person had a relationship with their abuser before and it was all consensual, and then it started to turn non-consensual. Like, they would try to use that in court to say that like this act was consensual, but it's not. If you say no or leave and act like you don't want it, like, that means no. It should simply be that simple, but it's not. So we have to have these laws in place. And so part of this House bill it's House Bill 1072, is that you can't bring up, or it says strictly limiting or severely limiting the history. So they might have to say, like, if it was a case of like a boyfriend girlfriend, they might have to say like they were in a relationship, but they can't sit here and talk about like every instance where she consented to it, which is another great step forward for women, that like, we can't use that against them, because again, the only person who is at fault for an abusive situation is the abuser, no matter how much they try to make it the victim's fault. There's so much victim blaming when it comes to abuse, and it's really outrageous and really, really just horrible. And so this bill is starting to push back against that, which is so great. And my hope is that so many other states will follow through with a House bill like this, because well, it's great that we have it in Colorado. We need it everywhere else. We seriously need these states to like step up and say that like we're going to protect women and protect them against abuse. It's just, I'm so passionate about it. And that's also why when we're talking about purity culture, I always say it's so important when talking about sex to address victims of assault who are sitting in your congregation. Because I know we're talking about sex, and we're talking about how when you have sex, like if you're talking about the, connection that sex brings, the bond that sex brings, there is definitely somebody sitting there listening to you, thinking about their assault and how they can't move forward from that because the act wasn't consensual. That's not something that they wanted. And now they feel like they are bonded to this person forever. They do have the connection forever. And so that's so important to say, like, while yes, like this does connect you, like Jesus is bigger than that. He can break that bond. That means that the person who's sitting here that has been abused before, you do not have to be bonded to this person forever. You do not have to be connected to this person forever in that way, because God can make you new. He can make your body new. He can wash you clean of the abuse that has happened to you, not of your sins, because you didn't sin. It wasn't your fault. But he can make you new, and he can heal you. You can ask God to heal you of what happened to you, and he can make you new. And there's so much newness in Jesus. And I don't say that in a way that's like dismissive of what you've gone through if you've experienced abuse. Please hear me on that. I know it's a lot more than just asking for that. Like, there's a lot of therapy that goes into it and things, but that's why it's just so important that when we're at church talking about this and talking about purity, you have to address the victims in the room, because they're just going to feel that extra layer of shame when you're talking about that. They're just going to feel like, okay, well, it wasn't my fault, but I guess I still am connected to them forever. I guess we'll have that soul tie forever, and that's just my life. Like, I'm always going to be connected to this person. And while you might always like, have that because that happened to you, we can't erase that happened to you. We can't erase that, physical connection. You don't want you to feel shame that you're going to be bonded to this person forever. Because what do we sing about in church? That, he breaks every chain. He breaks every chain. He breaks the generational curses. He breaks the lines of abuse. He can break that within your family and within your body. And so we have to be speaking that over ourselves. Like, he can break that bond that you might feel, you may not feel bonded. That doesn't sound, I'm not saying like the victim feels like they have a bond with their abuser, but it's just like you have that, it's always in your mind. Like, we've got that connection, and they can like break that, Jesus can break that chain. And yeah, I'm just really passionate about this, partly because I haven't talked about it in a while, but part of my like story with church trauma is a pastor was abusing my one of my best friends at the time, and who was also a staff member at the church. He was abusing her for years, like years and years and years. And I just and I was very close to the situation, and I still think about it a lot. Like, I was just talking the other day that I thought that I was like healed from this because it didn't happen to me. Like, the abuse didn't happen to me, but the trauma that I did go through trauma, and the results of finding this out and walking through this path and learning all these things, and how the things unfolded, and the things that people said about it, and the rumors and the way that things were handled was really traumatic. And I still think about it and think about the just layers and layers of trauma and hurt and distrust that this person who I had previously trusted, like who he actually was and what he was doing behind the scenes, he still shows up in my dreams. It's been 6 years now, since 7 years now, maybe, since all this happened. Like, still shows up in my dreams. I still panic that I'll run into him one day. I still go through in my mind, like, what would I say if I saw him? And I, think like I have forgiven this person, and I try to work through that, like I have forgiven them. But it's just hard. And that situation fueled so much of what I do here, talking about purity culture and talking about and supporting victims of sexual assault. Like, whenever I do like a donation piece because you guys are so kind and buy my affiliate links, like usually on my birthday or something, I will do a donation to a local organization that's helping assault victims, because the one I was doing in Denver was the Blue Bench, and that's where I learned about this case. But that's why I'm so passionate about it, is helping victims of assault. Not because I have been it, because I've been very close to it, and especially within the church. Because there's so many other power dynamics in play when it comes to a church, with being someone's pastor, and they're your pastor and they're your spiritual overseer. And I just know that the messages that you can hear in a church over time can just make the victims feel so ashamed. And that is just so far from what we are trying to do here. I'm trying to fight against the shame, and that's why I'm telling churches and telling people and on this podcast that the words that we say matter. The weight, there's so much weight to our words. And so when you say like, you're bonded to this forever, this can never change, and there's so much shame behind it, like you're shaming the assault victims, because even though we're saying, it wasn't your fault, like they still may feel that way. And so we just have to be so careful with our words, and our actions also have to follow. We have to be there and support. But that is just why I'm so thankful that this law is in place, because we need as many laws as we can to protect assault victims, man and woman. I know I've been very gendered in this episode, with like the guy being the abuser and the woman being the victim, but that's because I feel like that's how it often is. But I also know that like men are abused as well, and it just goes severely unreported. Which is really sad, because they also feel a lot of shame for their abuse because of the way that we just talk about it in general, and victim blame. And so this is really meant to stop victim blaming. Like, we cannot blame these victims of assault, and we've got to get "what was she wearing" out of their dictionaries. And when it comes to "what were you wearing," also, I always think about this exhibit that I saw one time. I didn't actually go to the exhibit, but I've seen about it on social media, and it's the "What Were You Wearing" exhibit, and it's from Susan B. Anthony. It's a Susan B. Anthony project, but it's where survivors like told their story of their sexual assault or their domestic violence, and they put like in this exhibit the clothes that they were wearing when they were assaulted. And you can look at, I'll link this in the episode notes. You can look at it. The clothes that you would see in this exhibit are sundresses, because this happened when somebody was little, were jeans and a t-shirt because they were just like at work, a work uniform. Like, it's sweatpants and sweatshirts. Like, some people were saying that they were mostly abused when they were in their bathrobes or in their pajamas because they were about to go to bed. Or it really is like eye-opening to see the clothes that people were wearing, because it truly fights back against the what what are you wearing conversation. And I really encourage you to look at it. It's really hard. Like I was just sitting here trying to scroll just to see what the website was, and it is truly heartbreaking to see what they were wearing. And if they bring this exhibit like around and come to my city, I'm definitely going to go, because I want to support these survivors of assault. But it is really heartbreaking. It's called the What Were You Wearing exhibit, and it is just a good slap in the face to anybody who has ever said what were they wearing, and thinking what were they wearing. Like, look at these and tell me that it was their fault for wearing a work uniform, for wearing basketball shorts and a basketball t-shirt because you were at your middle school rec league sporting event. You know, it's like, okay, then tell me what were they wearing, you know? Sorry for the heaviness today. I should have led with a trigger warning at the beginning of this episode because this was a heavy episode. I do apologize for that. And I'll maybe just put in the episode notes that that's what we are talking about today. So thank you guys for listening and hanging out with me. Again, sorry this was heavy, but we are going to fight back against this. We can do this. Just being a part of this community means that we are fighting for women and supporting assault victims. And that is just what is most important to me. And what I'll do with this episode is I don't make a lot of money from Spotify, but I will take the money from, I think it can show me what money I make in each episode. So I will take the money from this episode with the ads in it and donate that to a local shelter here. I will find a shelter to donate. And if it's not that much from each episode, then I will add some more to it. And I will let you know the donation that we are making to support assault victims. So I love you guys so much. Thanks for hanging out with me today. We will talk soon.